It is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022. I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, and welcome to a live edition of the Carolina Weather Group, episode 398. I can't believe it. We have our panel here tonight. We have two very special guests who are going to tell us about their once-in-a-lifetime blizzard chase. Sitting together, I think joined at the hip in Myrtle Beach, we have Ed Piotrowski and Greg Fishel, both legendary broadcast meteorologists here in the Carolinas. Joining us on our Carolina Weather Group panelists this week, we have Jared Smith in Charleston, Scotty Powell in Morganton, North Carolina, and Frank Strait in Columbia. I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be great. We were talking a little before the show, and I'm going to roll some video here just to let everybody know. We watched this play out last week on Twitter, as so many of us here in the Carolinas were experiencing our third encounter with winter weather. I think you guys must have saw that forecast and said, hold my beer. We're going to Boston. I'm not sure which one of you to ask first, but am I right? Was this a bucket list item, Ed, where you were like, I gotta go in 55 years?
Yeah, man.
Blizzard.
I've seen a lot of snow in my day, even that big snowstorm we had in Christmas of '89. But that wasn't a blizzard, so I'd never been in a blizzard, and I made it a bucket list item that I'm going to get there this year, no matter where we have to go. And it just so happened to be it was a bullseye, just a perfect place to go in Boston.
And you're talking about beer. We definitely felt a draft up there. I mean, it was like 15 degrees during the whole storm. So.
I hear they even have some famous people with beers named after them there, if I recall correctly. Yeah. So it was a good city for it. I'm wondering, as somebody who works in broadcast television during the day, how did you convince the powers that be to let you go and do this, which I'd have to imagine you did semi-last minute because at best you knew a week out. But B, also during a time when there was a little bit of winter precip happening back at home in Myrtle Beach. How did that happen?
Well, I made the decision actually Wednesday morning. I talked to my wife and we decided we're going to do this. I said, well, before I do that, I've got to get permission from the news director. And Victoria was really cool. I said, it's a minor event for us, maybe get an inch of snow. It'll be more a novelty thing and people will enjoy it. But I think this is going to be a big deal. And I said, look, I'm paying for it. I'm going to fly up on my own, but I'll do live shots for you on Friday and Saturday, which I did through the LiveView app on my phone. And my wife was the camera person, and that was it. She was more than happy to let us go. So while it was snowing here, I had the opportunity to actually be live from Boston as well. So it was kind of cool. And that's my wife right there. She's pretty athletic.
And I wouldn't have told that. I would have just played it off as you because, I mean, I don't know any other meteorologist.
Ed, stunt person.
That's it. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was just incredible to be up there and experience that. It was everything I expected it to be and even more.
Mm-hmm. Greg, how did you get roped into all of this?
Well, I don't have to answer to anybody right now.
Freedom.
And I've always been a very spontaneous person, so I just said, what the heck. But it's one of those things where I don't think I've seen a storm like that maybe since I was a kid. There was one storm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania in the late 60s where I think we had 18 inches of snow and drifts halfway up the house. But I don't remember, anything like that. And I was really hoping that those early forecasts of the 960 millibar low, where everything was concentrated and there was like a little eye feature and the winds would be gusting to 60 and 70. That's what I was hoping for. Now it almost got there. But if I see another situation where it looks like it might do that, I'm going up again.
There you go.
Going back. Haven't had enough. Now, Greg, have you experienced a blizzard before? We know it was Ed's first time.
Like I said, this one when I was a kid in Lancaster might have rivaled that. I think they did declare it a blizzard, at least by the definition back then. Mm-hmm. But I just thought, being near the coast where there's nothing between you and Europe but a bunch of waves, that I might have a chance to experience more wind than I had ever experienced in a snow event before. And I don't think I had ever experienced 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts when it was snowing.
Wow.
So
only a hurricane.
Yeah.
Fran in 96, I remember you
talking
about.
Right.
I want to read for folks before we get too far into the episode that blizzard has an actual definition from the National Weather Service. A blizzard means that the following conditions are expected to prevail for periods of 3 hours or longer. Sustained winds or frequent gusts to 35 miles an hour. So it sounds like you got maybe 10 more than that. And considerable falling or blowing snow, reducing visibility to less than a quarter mile. I mean, what was the thought, Ed, when you got up there, you got off the plane, and I mean, was it like a kid walking into Disney World?
We really were. I mean, we were walking around the city. Gosh, this time tomorrow, we're going to be buried in snow. It's a lock. They can't miss this one. And it was just incredible because it started snowing that night about midnight. I said, here we go. And by the time we got up in the morning, it was about 3 or 4 inches on the ground, and the winds were starting to pick up. The snow was getting heavier. And I think the National Weather Service in Boston declared a blizzard that lasted for 7 hours and 39 minutes. So it was continuous. So it was official, which was good to know.
Now, wait a minute, Ed. You're telling me you actually got a little bit of sleep before this happened? Because that would have been me. I'd probably been so excited I couldn't sleep the night before.
It wasn't easy to sleep, I can assure you that. But I knew the bulk of it was coming from mid-morning through the late afternoon. So I said, I'm going to get some sleep tonight, and then we'll just watch it all unfold through the daytime tomorrow. And what I found remarkable about the whole thing was how quickly they move that snow away. I mean, they are pros at moving snow. I mean, nobody ever stopped driving during the blizzard, which was incredible.
No.
And there's why they moved all the snow drifts, or moved all the snow into drifts.
Yep. You guys, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to compliment what you said. I saw you tweeting about how quickly that snow was being cleared out. And I was thinking back to my days growing up in a New York suburb where they were also really quick to clean things out. You saw people still out and about, like jogging, like nothing was happening.
And Eric Fisher, who is a chief meteorologist at WBZ in Boston, I'd asked him about that. He told me, he goes, look, during the winter, people are training for the Boston Marathon. So you can guarantee that if there's a blizzard, there's always going to be somebody out for a long run during a blizzard. And sure enough, that was pretty epic to see that.
I was going to ask you guys if I could share with you the few moments that I was actually scared.
Oh,
yeah.
Please.
Wow.
So I wanted to get up to a beach area again, so I could feel the full effect of the wind. And it took me 6 people to finally find the right train station, but I finally did. And then I looked at my phone, and the battery had gone from 50% to 8% in 30 minutes. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, I went through this in Barrow, Alaska. iPhones don't like cold, you know? So I had back to the hotel room, charged up the battery, and I'm losing light now. You know, the sun goes down early up there. And so I get on the train, go up there, get about 3 stops away from Riviera Beach, and it says, this train's out of service now. So they brought another one in, got on that, finally got up there and actually got out on the beach where there was a foot of snow and breaking waves, and that was all cool. And then I go back to the train station, and the announcement says, the next train will leave in 1 minute. Well, that recording played for 45 minutes. And so the guy next to me says, you might want to look at a bus. So I buy a bus ticket, go up to a lady at the counter, and she says, I said, what bus do I take to downtown Boston? She said, there is no bus from here that goes to downtown Boston. And everything else is closed. And so I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to die of hypothermia at this train station.
Oh my God.
If they don't start running the trains at some point, you know, this is not going to be good. But thankfully, about 15 or 20 minutes later, one finally showed up, and I met Ed and his wife for dinner, and all was fine. But there was a brief period of time there where I was sitting there thinking,
You're not gonna make it.
you know,
Yeah, we were, just so you guys know, we were actually in Boston at the same time on different flights, obviously, but Greg went to the coast and my wife and I stayed in Boston, and then we met up that night and on Sunday as well. So
yep.
Oh,
I think we have one picture from one of those dinners. Go ahead, Scott.
there you go.
Well, Ed, lo and behold, you're there in Boston and you're doing a live shot for the station, and you run into a group of people from Myrtle Beach. I mean, how coincidental is that?
Just bizarre. I mean, I had posted on social that, you know, that we were going to be out at Boston Common, and we were going to be live, and they found me, this group of people that were there on a conference from the Marriott here in Myrtle Beach. So we got on the air Saturday morning, and there it is right there. And we did Snow Angels on the air back in Myrtle Beach, which I thought was pretty cool. I can't remember doing that since I was a kid. So that was fun. But there they are. They were having a good time, just enjoying the snow just like I was.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about what that was like, because here in the Carolinas, I don't know, maybe in the mountains there's been some blizzard conditions, but just kind of, you were out in the elements. Both Greg, you and Ed both were. Talk about what it was like, just that high snowfall rates, the wind blowing. Like, just describe the scene for us. I mean, I know it had to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, everything is traveling horizontally, and I was talking to Dr. Gary Lackman up at NC State recently, and he was talking about the fact that if you actually trace snowflakes, how far they actually travel as they come down, that the origin of those flakes can be miles away, from where you're actually standing. And so I was sitting here thinking, even though it's blowing horizontally, or because it's blowing horizontally, how far away did these flakes start?
Was this in Canada where it started?
Right. But the flakes were not all that terribly big.
No, they were pretty small.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 19 degrees, I think, and very dry snow. But go ahead.
No, I mean, that's exactly right. And then of course, you had some areas because of the wind blowing where there was like almost nothing on the ground, and then a few feet away you had these big drifts. And I remember I did a little video, I think it was Sunday night, and I said, now I know there's an inconvenience with this and so forth, but would you rather have this or 33 degrees and rain? And I said, if you answer 33 and rain, I'm just going to be honest and say we have nothing in common.
There's nothing worse than a cold rain that you wish was snow, and now you're soaking wet.
Snow already.
For me, you know how it is here in the Carolinas. Most of it's always on the verge of being rain. So the flakes are fat like silver dollars, partially melted. And it's compacting, I think of 5 to 6 to 1, 1 inch of rain equals 5 to 6 inches of snow around here. Up there, they were estimating close to 20 inches of snow for an inch of rain. Very, very fluffy, dry snow. And with that wind blowing, man, it would pierce you. My wife and I walked down. We're like, we need to go get the goggles, which was the best thing we had ever done. I mean, that was a game changer to have goggles so that we could protect our eyes. So it was just amazing. And that's gives you an idea of how strong the winds were. That snow's pretty vertical there. And those bigger chunks are actually snow falling off the hotel.
It could be dangerous.
Yeah, especially when it iced up.
Let me ask you both this. You've both forecasted snow in the Carolinas, and I've made this comment before on this show, and you guys can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I feel like when you're in the north where they are used to snow and have lots of equipment, the snowfall forecast sometimes is just 1 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 12, and everything after that, good luck. Where down here, there seems to be this pressure to forecast 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inch, 2.5. Like the gradient that you're expected to perform at seems incredibly difficult. Did you observe that at all in Boston?
They had big numbers on every one of their maps. They didn't have, and they were in some of the ranges were probably 12 inches, which I was kind of surprised at. But, given that situation, I can understand it. Like down here, though, we're like a dusting to a half an inch to an inch. In reality, there's such a small difference, and how do you even forecast that?
And that's interesting. Like when you think about QPF in the summertime and you have an all day rain, nobody cares if it's, a 1/4 of an inch or an inch. The bottom line is that it rained all day. Whereas when it comes to snow, the demands are much more specific, in terms of what those amounts are going to be. But obviously you can't go on the air and say 2 to 12,
Not here.
I saw a range of 18 to 30 on one of the maps up there. So,
right.
But
at that point, the impact is just.
What was that?
I said at that point, the impact's the same, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, yeah, no doubt. I was saying that, everything was up and running by Sunday. I mean, every road, even the side roads, were plowed by Sunday morning. So they did a lot overnight. If that was us in the Carolinas, we'd still be down for the count. It'd be another week probably.
This is not a snow issue, but I just wanted to raise a quick point, just something that's interested me a lot, is that say in the summertime where you see a 5-day forecast and every day there's a sun, a cloud, a raindrop, and a lightning bolt. And it might look to you pictorially like it's going to be a very unsettled week and I shouldn't make any outdoor plans. Well, if it rains an hour every day, that means that there are 13 hours that are perfectly fine for doing things outside. And so I often have wondered, is the public more interested in the duration of rain as opposed to the amount? Because the duration has a lot more to do with what they can do outside and what they can't.
That's a really good point, right? Because even if it's just drizzling all day long, and you don't get a ton of rainfall,
Right.
it could still mess up whatever your afternoon outdoor plans were, or even throughout the whole day. That's it's a very interesting point. I want to ask a question. How did you two get this budding great friendship relationship? Because the second you guys connected tonight, there was clearly a spark there. What's the backstory?
So I watched Greg in college, believe it or not. When I was at NC State, Greg was just the man up there and was for 36 years, I believe. And so we developed a friendship when I was actually in college still. And we just maintained that. Him and Eric Thomas, just to name a few, were the go-to guys for me through my career to ask questions. I was never bashful about doing that. And we'd hang out at conferences, me and him and Eric, and have a great time. And it just grew into a great friendship. And, the goal would be to have Greg eventually work here at our station. We'll see if that ever happens.
And his wife is my real estate agent.
That's it.
Are you buying property in Myrtle Beach? Do you have property in Myrtle Beach?
Yeah, I live here
okay.
now. And she's also my advisor to make sure that I don't pick really, really bad wallpaper, or something like that.
It's good to have somebody like that in your life.
He's already a really big dork. We don't need him to be any bigger than he already is.
I've got a question though. How did Eric Thomas not get wrangled into this? We should have.
He's available. He's free.
Actually, I reached out to Eric, and Eric actually he's doing a lot of videography stuff now that he's retired, because he's very talented at that. And he had a shoot on Saturday that he could not rearrange or change. So, but he was, how Eric is. He's like, oh my God, I should have went. But
I was going to say, Eric, I did an interview with Eric, and he was like, now that I've got free time, I can go chase these storms, tornadoes, thunderstorms. So I was like, man, this would have been a perfect opportunity for him to get up there with y'all.
If he didn't have that photo shoot, he would have been up there with us. Three Stooges, that would have been something.
Oh, God.
Well, if he's watching right now, he could just take a look at that map right behind you, and you guys can pick a spot and just go.
That's true.
Right.
I'm up for a second blizzard.
Sure.
There are blizzard warnings in effect in West Texas right now, so you could go to West Texas right now if you wanted to. Hop in the Camaro, Ed.
Oh, I don't know about that.
That's what I want to know, actually, is why didn't you tell them you needed to drive the Camaro up there so that you could do donuts in parking lots in 2 feet of snow?
Yeah, I think it's that 15-hour drive that kind of got me at my age, man. I don't think I would have been able to walk after that.
So, Ed, I have to ask you. I know you're mine up in Boston, but I mean, like you said, Myrtle Beach did get a little bit of snow. The beach was covered, so I know you had one eyeball back here on the Grand Strand checking out what was going on there. I mean, let's talk about winter in Myrtle Beach. And Greg, I know you live there, so love for you to chime in too. This has actually been a pretty active winter for you guys down along the Grand Strand.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, snow is not very common here at all. You just like anywhere along the Carolina coast, once in a blue moon, you get a pretty big storm. And I think our last decent one was, I want to say 2008 when we had 3 to 6 inches of snow, or 2010, forgive me. 2000 we had a good snow, and then 1989 as well. But yeah, to see flakes at the beach is always a pretty incredible thing. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I was in Boston, so I didn't get to see him here. I had to watch him on my Nest Cam at my house. But yeah, people loved it. I mean, they were all, freaked out about it, loving it, and just taking a million photos. That's for sure.
Well, if it made your news director feel any better, apparently across the street at your competition,
that was great.
Jamie Arnold wasn't there either. I thought
he's in Idaho.
Yeah, I asked Jamie, "What are you doing in Idaho?" He said, "I wanted to get away." He's like, "It's been busy enough." So
that was funny. He tweeted that graphic to me, and I'm like, "That's classic right there." That the only way you're going to get snow in Myrtle Beach is if both he and I are out of town.
Let us know the next time you guys leave town, okay? We
will.
I think we're going to need to coordinate that so that people here can get some snow.
That's a great forecast tool.
That's a great forecast tool. Ed, let me ask you this, and no one's trying to get rid of you, but you used the word bucket list because you had never done this before. Are there other things on your bucket list, say, you want to do before you retire?
Gosh, I've done enough hurricanes here. I can tell you that. I don't care to ever see one of those again. I do want to fly with the hurricane hunters. I was scheduled to be on a flight in '98 to go into Hurricane Mitch, which was Category 5 in the Caribbean. But because it got close enough to land, they had canceled my flight that I was going to be on. And the challenge, of course, is they need you here. So how do you catch a flight when it takes several days to, round trip to get all that done? But that's one of my goals. One of my bucket list items to fly in the hurricane hunters.
And I had a chance to do that like 20 years ago, and I turned it down because that was at a point in time where if there was any turbulence on an airplane flight at all, I knew I was going to die. And I was petrified. I mean, and I remember a flight out of Des Moines one time. It was clear air turbulence, and I had a cup of coffee, and all of a sudden the coffee is like 5 feet above the cup. But now somebody gave me a great analogy. They said, just imagine a truck driving on a bumpy road, and it just happens to be 30,000 feet up. But I probably, if I got that chance again, I probably would jump on it.
Greg and I have actually talked about, this was years ago, and I don't know if you remember. The other thing we want to do is, at least I do, is to go to the Tug Hill and experience lake effect snow, because that's the end all be all to heavy snow for sure.
I like this series you guys have going of like chasing these big snow events, Scotty.
That would be an epic event. I mean, you can't beat lake effect snow. I mean, if you get right in there under the right band, I mean, you can pile the snow up in a hurry. So, Ed, one more thing I want to ask you, and I know you got to get ready for the news. I was able to attend the pizza party that you threw for Myrtle Beach, but at the same time we had the tornadoes in Kentucky, so I didn't really get an opportunity to really talk about exactly what the setup was and the idea. So for those folks who heard us mention about it, but we didn't really get to do in detail, since we have the mastermind himself here. Talk to us a little bit about how this pizza party came for the Grand Strand. And I mean, I was there. It was a huge turnout. I mean, huge turnout.
We had 3,500 people, which was shocking to me, but we were all on the same page. Everybody wanted to get through a season without a hit for a change. We had gone through 5 years, and I just remember tongue in cheek saying in the beginning of the hurricane season, man, if we get through this hurricane season, I'm going to throw a big pizza party. Didn't even give it a second thought. And then
this is it here.
That's it. Oh, there you go. So as we're going through the season, I'm posting about different tropical things, and people keep asking about the pizza party. And I'm like, boy, this is kind of taken off. And then I had pizza places reaching out. Hey, we really want to be part of this. If we make it, we'll donate pizza. So I said, all right, I got to meet with our management about this. And so we decided, once we got to the end of November, we were planning in November thinking we were safe. And we decided we're going to have a band play out there. We're going to get a bunch of local pizza places to donate the pizza and just have a really fun time. And then, I said, I'm going to invite Jim Cantori. And Jim used to come to our ABC 15 golf tournaments back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And as you all know, he's just a great guy. And he was like, yeah, man, I'd love to come out for that. Because he's, the running joke is if you see Jim in town, you run out of town. Because, So it was neat to have him in town, and he was very gracious and did the interview with us. And then, of course, he had to leave from there. But that's how it came. That's how it came about. It was just a great community event to just enjoy a hurricane issue-free season. Hurricane-free issues, whatever the word is.
Go ahead.
It was a great event. I don't want to embarrass Ed here, but I got to tell him. I got to tell this story. So we have numerous pizza tents here. I mean, I think there was, I don't know, 30-some pizza tents. Yeah. I mean, a lot of pizza tents. We had a band. Santa Claus was there, so you could get your picture with Santa. But here was this huge line from the outfield wall all the way across the field to home plate, and that line was there to take pictures with Ed. So Ed was bigger than Santa Claus that day. Wow. Everybody wanted to meet Ed.
I don't know about that.
No, I got pictures I can prove.
When you know how it is when you've been in a place for 28 years, just by default, like, oh, okay, I'll go take a picture with that guy.
That he has a clause in his contract.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
No, Ed, seriously, the folks of Myrtle Beach really do love you, Ed, and that was a great community event. And I can speak for myself and Christian and Dylan. We were able to attend and just really enjoyed the event. It was really well done. And if we keep getting winter storms, you might have to throw something else together, Ed.
I know. How do we top next year if we get another hurricane? We'll figure it out, because if we can do that, that'd be great. And I appreciate you guys coming down and hanging out too. That meant a lot to me.
Oh, it was a great time. We enjoyed it. So, James, I'll toss it back to you. We'll stop hurricanes because I know hurricane season's coming quick enough.
I was going to give Ed and Greg one last chance to throw anything else in they wanted to share about their trip that maybe we didn't mention before we get on to Jared to talk about the current weather situation.
Yeah, I was just going to comment about the fact, and we've talked about this before the show started, that even though we've had all these winter events, it's still possible that the original winter forecast of above normal temperatures and below normal precip could verify. And it's just, and the same thing with the hurricane season. I mean, the number of storms doesn't matter. It's how strong they are and who they hit. So you could have 13 of them out in the middle of the Atlantic giving fish anxiety attacks, but not causing any other problems. And but it only takes one. You know, Andrew was in a below normal year. I think Alicia in '83 was in a below normal year.
So was Hugo, I believe.
Right. So that's why I've always been so reluctant, you know, to put a lot of weight in these things, because people think that all 90 days of the winter are going to be warm and dry, and it just rarely turns out to be that way.
It kind of goes back to what you were saying about weather apps. Kind of the same deal. You know, it's not going to be. When you see the little raindrop on the screen, it's not going to be raining all day. It's going to be raining from 1 to 4, maybe. You know, so there's plenty of time there. There's plenty of range there. That's a really good point.
I've had 37 years to think about it.
37 years in broadcasting. That's a quarter of his life.
I can tell when I'm not one.
For me, it goes beyond just the big snowstorm in Boston, which was phenomenal and something I'll never forget. My wife and I just had a blast up there, and we did with Greg as well. But I've really learned that freezing rain absolutely sucks. There's no worse precipitation on the planet than freezing rain, because it's below freezing. You're getting rain and everything is freezing up and getting slick. And I didn't have to deal with that at all in Boston. It's guaranteed 99% of the time, any winter storm that impacts our area, there's going to be freezing rain if there's any frozen precipitation at all. So it's nice to see just fluffy white everywhere.
You guys ever hear about the king of Antarctica?
Oh boy.
No, but I'm all ears.
Yeah, he had a freezing rain.
But boom. We need sound effects on this production.
I don't have. I have a soundboard, but I have not yet gotten this.
It's not hooked up.
No, it's not hooked up. No, I'm gonna
next
have
time.
To...
I expect more from you next time, Jared.
I'm getting there.
Jared's getting pressure.
We'll remember to buy a soundboard next time we get a big check from a sponsor, right?
There you go.
That's exactly.
Send us a super chat right now if you're watching on YouTube. All right. Well, you guys are welcome to stay. We're going to talk about the snow, but before we do that, do you guys have social media or things you'd like to plug? Of course, what would be an interview if we give you a chance to plug where we can find you and what you're up to?
Oh man, if you're ever at the beach, just look up ABC 15. I know, you know, the beauty of this market is we all get along really well at all the different television stations. You know we're not competing really against one another. It's competing against apps and everything else that's out there. So we all get along really well. But if you're ever in town, we hope you watch ABC 15 so you keep me in a job for a few more years.
Yeah, and I just have I have a personal profile, and then I just Greg Fishel, and then I created one of those, what do they call them, pages or whatever.
Yes.
You know, it's like, I think it's Greg Fishel and other weather and other stuff or something like that. But if you put that in the search engine, it'll probably show up somewhere.
All right. Well, Ed, make sure you give your intern there a passing score.
Hey, I need you to go get me dinner.
All right.
2 cups of coffee.
That's it. There you go.
Well, the stakes are high. You know?
That's it.
Well, we appreciate you guys. Again, you're welcome to stick around as we continue on this live show, or if you got someplace to be, that's understandable too. We're going to go on down to Charleston, South Carolina, and Jared's going to talk about, well, exactly what's been on the map behind you guys this entire broadcast here on this beginning of February. Jared, is another winter storm impacting the East Coast.
A lot of people. It's not
Thank
just
you.
the East Coast.
Thanks, guys. I was going to say no pressure, but they're still sitting there, so now you're going to have to do the weather in front of them.
Hey, no, that's okay. I can deal with that. You know, and this is the thing that kind of blows my mind here, is that we have 2,100 plus miles of winter storm warnings alone, stretching from almost the Texas-Mexico border. One county. Can we just who do I have to bribe to get a little upgrade down there, right?
El Paso. We need to get El Paso
all
weather
right.
service.
Yeah, we'll figure. EPX, we'll talk. But yeah, I mean, 2,100 miles from border to border, just about. This thing is insane. I mean, this is. I just there's no words for that. Except it's February in the CONUS, right? I mean, so we zoom out here. Ed had this up on his screen behind him here, and and so taking a look at just all the current things here. We show isobars because we don't have consultants telling us not to.
That's so smart.
Yeah, and
guys, we're gonna have to cut out though because I've got to get ready for the 10, and Greg's got to run.
No worry. We appreciate you guys.
Gentlemen,
Thanks for hopping on.
it was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Great work there, guys. Talk to you soon.
So long. It was the isobars, Jared.
It was the isobars. Yeah. Too much for these guys. I get it. No, I totally get it. But yeah, no, I mean, massive storm. And again, it shows up. You have a little bit of everything here. We got some rain up in front of it. We actually have a little stream of rain moving into the Greenville area, Greenville and Western North Carolina this evening. But we got snowfall, West Texas through a good bit of Oklahoma. I'm sure that the Oklahoma severe weather, the Oklahoma weather folks, I'm sure are handling that with the usual calm and precision that they handle with all. Actually,
they're freaking out right now. I have a buddy, Andrew, who was on our show a couple months ago. They're dry sliding in Norman right now, so they're not really happy right now. Everybody's getting snow but Norman, and it's sleeting there. So.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. I mean, that's
definitely right. One thing you need to get used to if you're going to be a meteorologist is that there is a weather dome over all major meteorologist population centers. State College, Raleigh, Norman. Weather just doesn't happen in places like that. You have to go someplace.
Because the DC urban heat island, or because we like having angry viewers?
Both.
Yeah. I mean, the famous DC snow hole too, right? I mean, that's something that I was thinking. I think about the other CWG up in Washington and Ian Livingston and the gang always talking about the snow hole. So yeah, it's they're not having much fun up there sometimes. Although they've had a good run this year. It's actually been a little bit better for them. But yeah, I mean this kind of wide radar view really doesn't show that it is sleeting in Norman. It doesn't really resolve down that, but you can see ice pellets, and then you maybe have some freezing rain coming into Dallas. I mean, holy moly. I mean, it's 32 and let's see, that's Mesquite. There's light freezing rain and mist in Dallas. So if you were, Scotty, I think you're muted.
Wouldn't be a live show otherwise.
Wouldn't be a live show without. We know how bad Dallas is traffic-wise without any precipitation. Imagine putting on some freezing rain out there right now.
Yeah, that's going to do it. I mean that's you put some freezing rain in the Metroplex, it's game over. And this thing is just massive. I mean, you have snow and sleet and freezing rain stretching up all the way into Indiana, and then more snow basically up towards Detroit and all the way into Canada. And this is going to come eastward over the next couple days.
Before you advance. Yeah. Before you, did you just scream us? Because I had US on the graphic. Before you advance, Donald with a question on YouTube. What's with the big gap of snow in the Midwest where nothing is happening?
Let me check on that, because this is it would not surprise me if there was a little sinking air here. I'll have to let me hit you back in the comments here when we get off.
Yeah, that's kind of what's going on. There's a little jet streak over Ohio that's causing that one wave of stuff in the Eastern Great Lakes region, and then the main action is back in the Southern Plains states right now.
Yep. Yeah. There's one. Here's the 500 millibar. So yeah, here's one trough here. There's your main kind of lead guy. There's your moisture transporter all the way from the Pacific, and then you have a little streak here, little streaky here, and then some sinking air in the middle. Generally, the way that works out. So, good eye, Frank. Good stuff. So yeah. So what does this mean for us?
Yes. What does it mean for us?
So there's a couple things. One, GSP has a flood watch out. I don't remember the last time I looked at a GSP map and saw that they had a flood watch for like actual water rain, not like snow, and I'm so used to looking at maps from up there
Yeah,
that
that
are
would be back in September or something, the last time that's happened, I think.
yeah, it's been a minute.
You know what? I could actually look that up. I was just looking up the last blizzard warning that was issued, and
Mhm.
actually the only office that serves South Carolina that's ever issued a blizzard warning is GSP. But it was,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, in the mountains of North Carolina, because it was
As same
4,400
goes
days
for
ago.
same goes for North Carolina. You'd have to either use GSP or Roanoke, because anything
Right.
east of there just has never actually happened.
Yeah.
Hey, Jared, you're talking about flooding. Some people asked me about that today. Why is there flood watches, and why are we talking about the possibility of some flooding? But you got to remember a couple of things here. It's the winter time, and anytime you get a lot of heavy rain falling, the grass is dormant, so it's not able to really soak in that rain, and so it just kind of runs off. Also, the ground's, I mean, I've honestly, my neighbor here has snow still in the yard from 2.5 weeks ago. So the ground is still cold. I'm not saying it's freezing, but it's really cold. So when it's cold, it's harder for that water to absorb in. So, if we get that band of heavy rain, especially on Friday, we could definitely see some runoff issues. So that even though I believe still part of the state's in a abnormally dry spot in the drought
Mhm.
monitor, we still have those flood watches up just because of the seriousness of the runoff from that heavy rain.
It is also worth noting that that at least in South Carolina, the drought committee met earlier this week and declared South Carolina drought free.
Yes, we did.
for DNR. So the DNR did a release there, which get on that mailing list, please. It's phenomenal. If you're in South Carolina, you should be on the mailing list, no question. So yeah, days since last flood warning. Yeah, it's been a minute. I mean, that's.
Yeah, 117 days from the GSP office. That's the last flood warning. I can pop the last flash flood warning too. Will take about 15 seconds for it to put that together.
Yeah, and I think this is I think the flash flood warning was a casualty of HAZSIMP, or the flash flood watch rather was a casualty of HAZSIMP, as I remember. That's why they're only flood watches now.
Pretty much the same, 116 days since the last flash flood warning in the GSP area. The other offices have had more recent flash flood warnings. So that would take us back to what, September? And probably the last time we were dealing with a tropical system.
Yep. We got again, we have a really good tap of moisture from the Pacific with this system, and eventually that's going to move into the Gulf as we go forward here. I'm using for reference, I'm using the 18C GFS to show this. Again, this is a general idea of what we could look at, and we'll get a look at kind of what we're expecting here. And yeah, you can see that some kind of a good bit of heavy rain here, guys. It's some nice downpours working into the area as we get into early Friday morning, and that's gonna progress eastward as time goes on. Now the GFS seems to weaken this a little bit, and as the main surface low moves north, but we're going to keep some rain in the forecast in the Carolinas here into Saturday morning, and then this front is going to kind of hang up a little bit, and low pressure is going to develop along said front. And by Saturday evening, if we can get my graphics to do the thing, because
here comes the inevitable coastal low.
The coastal low is going to happen, and the thing about the coastal low is that this is the situation in which we've got to watch this for some overrunning or anything like that. The good news is that the trend is further south. It's definitely further south, further east, which will limit the threat of winter weather. There is a slight chance of a little bit of winter weather filling in. This model seems to think, and again, we've had some runs. The European run, for example, has been getting drier as time goes on. But we have some, here that suggests that we could see a little bit of winter weather, maybe in northern South Carolina, maybe in central North Carolina. This is showing a brief round of freezing rain. I hope that certainly doesn't happen as I attempt to advance forward through time, but apparently we're saturating all the bandwidth over here. So all that to say that, we're going to be watching that, very closely, but again, it looks like it's going to be a situation where we have the cold is going to be behind the moisture. the chances are low. Again, we're showing the 18Z. We were showing the 18Z GFS until technology failed me.
Well,
But what's up, James?
So to summarize, we have a slight chance of seeing a little bit of wintry precipitation Saturday night, Sunday morning in a few places, but is it during those overnight hours too?
Yeah, I think it's mainly gonna be overnight. It's gonna be overnight, maybe early into Sunday. But again, the chances, WPC has been going down on the chances. If anything, they've been trending downward on that. So, we'll wait and see. Obviously we're going to get into the range of the scale models in the next couple days. We'll have a better idea as to like what's what exactly. But this is certainly not the widespread winter weather events that we have been seeing by any stretch of the imagination. And, for the vast majority of us, we are going to see liquid precipitation from this. And thank goodness, I don't think I've ever been so happy to see actual rain with nothing else coming along with it. Ever.
Jared is hoping in a loving way that we don't have to do nightly updates.
Hey, look, I mean,
on another winter storm.
It's I love what I do, but sometimes you just got to get some sleep, man.
They keep happening on weekends. So Donald had a question going back to what we were talking about whether or not we've ever had a blizzard in the Carolinas. And you guys will remember from the beginning of the show that blizzard has a definition of 35-mile-per-hour winds with blowing or falling snow, reducing visibility to a quarter mile and lasting for 3 or more hours. So, Frank, you went back to your wizardry and you've pulled up a graphic that will answer that official definition question. What did you find?
Well, this would be the last time a blizzard warning was issued by the Weather Service offices, and this map shows it around the country. Of course, it's only been a few days since the last blizzard warning issued for some places in the east, and there's currently some blizzard warnings in effect up in the North Dakota, Northwest Minnesota, West Texas, and Southeast New Mexico, and also up in Alaska too. But for the Carolinas, it has been a long, long, long time since a blizzard warning was issued. Now, this is not an actual blizzard that's occurred. It's just one that was warned for, which was expected to. Now, the Blacksburg office, it's been 3,382 days since they issued one. They cover far northwestern North Carolina, including the Boone area. So it's been a while for them. GSP does have at least one on record, and unfortunately the number didn't show up, but I went and looked in the data. It's been 4,374 days, which according to timeanddate.com takes us back to February 11th, 2010. What happened on February 11th, 2010, or between the 10th and the 14th? A lot of snow, 17 inches at Mount Mitchell, 16.6 at Beech Mountain. Banner Elk had 10.7. Goldsboro had 6. Boone, 5.5. A lot of reports of snow across North Carolina. So yeah, I bet that blizzard warning verified. Also, in my favorite Carolina, this is a nice day for snow too. There was 8.6 inches here in Columbia from that storm. I don't think it was a blizzard, but there was a lot of snow from that storm.
That's still a lot of snow, blizzard or not blizzard.
Yeah, I remember that one in Charleston, and that was a good one. I mean, that was legitimate,
yes,
right down
5
here.
inches.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of snowmen.
5 inches
didn't last
North
too
Charleston. So 2 of them, actually 2 reports there.
Yep,
of about 5 inches.
Yeah,
so the blizzard is probably confined to those higher elevations in the mountains.
Most likely was. I suspect that's where the blizzard warnings were issued, were mountain counties. My recollection is that at least in my lifetime, going back as early as I can remember, I could never remember a blizzard warning being issued for any place in South Carolina. It was close with the 93 storm. Met County, the North Carolina, Charlotte metro counties were under a blizzard warning. I remember hearing that on the radio that it had just been issued. So that's the one time I could remember it for North Carolina outside the mountains. I can't ever remember a blizzard warning being in effect in South Carolina anywhere. Now, that's not saying it hasn't happened, but I don't have any recollection of it.
Yeah, And I think keeping in mind too that the website, Frank, that website that you were using at the Iowa Mesonet, we have a couple people asking about, what that is. And if you haven't been to the Iowa Mesonet website, he has hundreds of different ways to plot any piece of weather data you could ever consider. What Daryl Hersman has got going on there is fantastic.
Right. Yeah, I was going to make sure we mentioned his name, Daryl Hertzman. We had him on, haven't we? On Carolina Weather Group?
I don't know that we've had him.
No,
I
we
would
haven't.
like to.
We have not. Okay.
We need to
we ought to get him on.
Yeah, we got to get him on. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, maybe it was Weatherbrains that had him on.
Yeah,
sure,
Weatherbrains had him. That was a good episode.
Was I on the podcast or was I watching the podcast?
Yeah, that was a good episode. Definitely recommend it. But what he's got going on there, he's pulling the blizzard warning since the invention of valid time event code, which is a post Weather Service modernization thing.
How about we do this? How about we screen share and show the process of how people can do that? Because if there's interest in that,
all right,
tutorial.
Frank?
Who wants to do that? Frank or Jared?
I'm sorry, I got distracted because I saw Donald's another question or comment that Donald made there about the all-time record high back in 2014.
I think this would be it would be a good way for people to, this is good data to access. So maybe we could do a little tutorial.
You know what? Tell you what, I think what we'll do, Scotty, is we'll record something, put it on our YouTube. And that way it's ready for everyone and they don't have to dig through a bunch of show. I think that
the most fun I have with Daryl Hertzman's site is when you can go back and look up, and this goes way back, all the way back into the 80s even.
Yes.
Old NWS products from long time ago. You can look up old
oh my God,
old statements from the blizzard of 93 or the 2004 snowstorm in the upstate, and some of them the meteorologists do have a sense of humor, and sometimes it comes out in those products, and sometimes they're just fun to read.
I remember James and I were going back and forth looking for the last transmission from the Weather Service office in Charlotte. We were looking for the last product it ever issued before GSP took over during modernization in the mid 90s. There were some pretty funny ones in there. I mean, these guys, there was no internet at the time. They could, I mean, who set up no port dishes at home? Who did this
exactly? Exactly.
Like
they all figured it was just a little fun conversation between meteorologists. They never thought it would ever be made public.
Yeah, no, a lot has changed. I mean, if you ever read an AFD from back in the 90s, it is very different from the area forecast discussion that you know and love today. It is a very different product.
All right. So to recap, teasing ahead, we're going to have tutorials on how to use Daryl's site. We're going to find out what the last bulletin ever issued from the National Weather Service in Charlotte is, which, if anybody doesn't know, that office doesn't exist anymore. And we're going to have to get back to Chris here, unless Frank also has this in his encyclopedia brain off the top of his head on whether or not there was a blizzard in February of 1973 in Sumter County. Something tells me we're going to have to pull out some books.
I can actually answer that off the top of my head, and the answer is maybe.
I could have said that.
That storm did produce the state 24-hour snowfall record for South Carolina in Rimini. They had 24 inches.
Wow.
Which that's pretty amazing for South Carolina. And that's not the single storm record, but it is the 24-hour snowfall record for South Carolina.
Well, I'm noticing Donald's already looking up. This must be the coldest temperature in South Carolina, -19. Does that sound
19
plausible?
below at Caesar's Head, January 21st of 85. For most people alive today, actually for anyone that's alive since 85, that's the coldest day of your life. Some places in South Carolina were colder in 1899, mid-February, but most places, a lot of places saw their coldest on record on that day.
So we are 2 episodes away from our 400th episode of the Carolina Weather Group, which doesn't include Let's Talk Carolina Weather. It doesn't include live specials, just the weekly series like we had tonight with Ed and Greg. And what I'm seeing here is already a blooming interest in what I think will be kind of a fan interactive fun show. And so we will look to Chris and Donald and all of our other loyal fans out there. Keep sending us questions and ideas, because I think that's the direction we're going to go here later on in February, is just to kind of geek out and nerd out with you all and celebrate 400 episodes, which is crazy when you think about it. All right, guys, we have learned a lot in this episode with Ed and Greg, who I had no idea were BFFs, but now I know. Secrets out, and I'll be curious to see where they end up next. I mean, I think that will be a really fun adventure. It's very interesting to see when meteorologists get out there and just have that same love and joy of the weather. I really does. It made me think, watching Ed's Twitter, how I saw the same thing in Ed that I see in my young kid who wakes up, looks outside, and screams, "It's snowing!" So that child, I think, is alive in so many of us. So
that never leaves.
Never leaves. I know Scotty's still got it. He wants more snow.
I still want one more storm. I want one more storm, and then I'm ready for it to turn warm. But I'll be happy with what I got. I've got, every winter I keep a little notepad here on my weather desk, and I document every winter storm warning, winter weather advisory, whatever. And I keep those to just reflect on wintertime. That's the only time I ever do it. So far here at my house, we've had 8.8 inches of snow, which is way above normal. So normal for us is they just switched it. The new normals come out. I know the old normal was like 5 inches for where I live. So I can't remember if that was adjusted up or down or anything, but we're over that. So I know it wasn't 8 inches. So we definitely surpassed that in another La Nina year, which you don't really expect to happen. So,
yeah, January really overperformed by every measure. It was quite a month.
It was
over now, and I'm ready to move on.
It might be a podcast show that we bring our friends back to reflect on just the craziness from 80 degrees on January 1st to 4 consecutive. Five snow events in Greensboro. I mean, it's been a wild ride.
I'm not over it yet.
One thing
Frank,
I'd like
did you
to bring up.
thought?
Yeah, talking about La Nina here. One thing I'd like to bring up with a little bit of research I've been doing in the climate office while looking at what's happened and what might be coming up in the spring. I've noticed that when you have the second dip of a double dip La Nina, sometimes you don't get what you expect from a La Nina winter. And when La Nina is starting to decay as it is now, sometimes you don't really get what you might expect during a La Nina winter or spring. So I won't go into any more specifics than that because more study needs to be done. But preliminary indications are that these are some things you need to think about. Is that if La Nina is decaying, then maybe the signal's a little different. If it's the second dip of a double dip, maybe the signal's a little bit different.
A Costanza La Nina. Double dip the chip, and then you end it.
When you're
you go.
When you're talking of double dip, I think of ice cream, like double scoops of ice cream. All right, James, we're totally went off track.
I know. Wrap it up. Scotty, next week, we're going to have an all-new episode of the Carolina Weather Group, which will be available really early for those of you who support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Carolina Weather Group. We had it prepared for tonight, and since it won't be airing until next week, you're going to have it multiple days early. But Scotty, give us a little bit of a synopsis. This is the one we recorded just last week, featuring our guest panelist, Candace, and I had to jump off for most of the conversation. So what can we expect from this show that will premiere next week?
Yes, so we have Kelly Dobeck on. She is a meteorologist up in Cleveland, Ohio, but actually has Carolina ties. She went to school at UNCA. So we talk a little bit about her interest not only in meteorology, but science and all the cool things that she's doing, especially during the COVID times. We bring in her dog, which I know Jared enjoyed. The dog makes an appearance, and we talk a little bit of Cleveland weather, what it's like up there. So really entertaining show.
Very snowy.
Yeah, it's a good entertaining show, and you'll also meet our guest panelist Candace Jordan as well, which she really. I didn't realize how close best friends they were until they were on the show. So yeah.
Again, supporters of the Carolina Weather Group at patreon.com/Carolina Weather Group can unlock early access to that episode for just $3.99 a month. And for $1, you'll unlock episode extras. So when we have something that doesn't make the show, you'll get it there on Patreon as a thanks for your support. We'll hope you'll find us on YouTube for our non-stop programming. It's called the Carolina Weather Net. It's made just for you, the Carolina weather fan. You can watch it any place you watch YouTube, on your smartphone, on your smart TV, at Jared's house. Wherever you watch YouTube, you can watch the best of the Carolina Weather Group alongside real-time weather conditions and forecasts across the Carolinas. It's streaming right now at the Carolina Weather Group YouTube page. If you're watching us right this moment on it, stand by. We'll get you back to regular programming in just a moment. But until next week, I'm James in Charlotte. That's Frank in Columbia, Scotty Powell in Morganton, Jared Smith in Charleston, with special thanks to this week's guests, Ed and Greg, who, if we're not careful, guys, they're going to launch a podcast of their own, I think.
They could launch it under CWG. We'll just have a little offshoot.
Come on in. Bring Eric in, too. So.
Comedy Hour, the Three Stooges. That's what they call it.
Greg and I are going to have a pun off, though.
I love it already.
Yep.
Have a good week.